Hi guys. So I'm Ella Whitbread. I'm currently an assistant designer at the high street store Accessorize. So if you're from the UK, you'll probably be familiar with Accessorize Monsoon. These are two brands that are owned by the same CEO. So I work in the Accessorize side of the company. So I'm just going to quickly take you through my journey from Norwich University of the Arts. So I graduated from there in 2023 and then to my current job role now. So let me slide over. So I came to Norwich University of the Arts after studying in a gap year. If you look at the date when I started, you can see it was in 2020. So you can imagine how my gap year went. I made it to Australia for 2 weeks and then had to turn around and come home, which was felt like a bit of a waste. So before I took my gap year, I studied A levels at Colchester Sixth Form. So I studied English literature, photography, and textiles. But when I was studying there, I already knew that I wanted to go into fashion. So when I was at Norwich University of the Arts, I did the BA fashion course. So in our first year, we were still kind of in and out of COVID at the time. So it was a mixture of online and in-person learning. But our primary projects that year was the White Shirt project. You can see on the screen, these are my final outcomes in my final year. So in my final year, I was lucky enough to be offered to go to Graduate Fashion Week. So this is something that you have the opportunity to do on the fashion course. So you go to a panelist and you present your work, and then there's a selection of us that were chosen to go and showcase. So in my final year, my project was focused on sustainability. And then also at the time, I had a real fascination with Greek mythology and the retelling of certain characters in Greek mythology and how originally they were painted out as villains, and how some of this maybe was written from a misogynistic view. So this was something that I was really into in my final year. So I found a way to incorporate that into my project. So my project was set around a crime investigation where someone was murdered, and all the different suspects were different women and characters from Greek mythology or other areas of popular culture, and how they were victims of misogyny and other areas of violence, and how they've sort of been painted out to be villains but potentially aren't. I've just seen Sky, so she loves Greek mythology. I'm absolutely obsessed. So don't know how I managed to get it into my project, but I did. So you can see two of the images. So the one at the beach and the one on the far right. These are my two outfits that I made as my final project at the university. And then when I was chosen for Graduate Fashion Week, I went on to make an additional two outfits for the catwalk. So this second photo was based on, the outfit was based on Medusa, and how she was painted out to be this villain in Greek mythology, but actually she was very much a victim. So this photo shoot was done in Wells Next to the Sea, which is local to Norwich. So I was lucky to find a girl on the photography course, and then we had a first year on the fashion course that volunteered to model, and we drove down to Wells. It was about a 40-minute drive. So there's loads of really lovely areas around Norwich that are really great places to do shoots and find other areas of inspiration. And then on the far right, the outfit was based on Circe, who's another character from Greek mythology. She's most well known for turning a group of men into pigs. But there's a really brilliant book called Circe by Madeline Miller, which is what was inspiration for this. So this was taken, this photo shoot, in the Rage Rooms in Norwich. So I was lucky enough that when I contacted them, they allowed me to come and use the facilities for free. And that was another photo shoot that I did. So including this, like in my projects, I had an element of biomaterials. So I had a real focus on sustainability. A lot of the materials I used were secondhand materials that I sort of either from clothing that I took apart and reused, or dead stock material that I could find. And then my dissertation was around biomaterials. So this was something that I kind of experimented with. So you can see on the Circe outfit, the red blood in the middle, that was all made out of biomaterials, which has still not gone moldy to this day, which was amazing because I was really scared it was going to do that. So 2023, that summer I graduated. So the summer of that I was applying for jobs. At that point, I wasn't really having any luck. I'd moved back home, and I was working in the local Calvin Klein store. But I was lucky enough that the September of 2023, I applied for an internship with the brand Toffee. So this was a small business based in London, and I went and worked with her 2 days a week and helped her to develop one of her most recent collections. So the orange dress that you can see here, this was a dress that we designed together and actually recently has been worn by Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child. So that was a bit of the career highlight for me so far. All my family went kind of crazy when we saw that on social media. So I worked with her whilst also working in Calvin Klein at the same time, just in the local shop. So I was lucky enough that this internship was paid, but it was paid very minimal amount. So my manager was so lovely. She used to make me lunch, so I actually didn't have too many outgoings at that point. But at the same time, I was still applying for jobs elsewhere because I really wanted to get a full-time position within fashion. So at this point, I was contacted by the DCK company. So this is a company I worked with in one of the summers when I was at Norwich, and it was a placement that I got through the university. So I went and did a work placement with them for 3 weeks. So they're based in Essex, where I'm from. So they do all the jewelry for some really well-known UK high street brands. So Marks and Spencer's, River Island. Ayla is a brand that's owned by DCK, but it's stocked in Next. And then also New Look, I'm trying to remember, Tesco's, a few other like supermarkets as well. So they contacted me and asked me if I'd like to come back as a design assistant. So at that point, I left Toffee and I went to work at DCK full time. So as a design assistant, I worked on Marks and Spencer's primarily was the account I worked on. So these are two pieces that I've got on the screen that are two pieces that I designed. So with jewelry, and especially in the high street, you design collections almost a year in advance. So these have to be designed, sampled, and then also there's a lot of process that goes into the sampling process. So this is something that I did, probably designed in January last year. So at this point, this is something that's only just recently gone into stores. So that shows how long it takes for product to come through. So while I was working on Marks and Spencer's, I was also working on Ayla just once or twice a week. So that's, again, like I said, a store that's stocked into Next. So I worked at DCK from November to around July last year. And that's when I moved on to Accessorize, which is where I currently am. So I've been working there as an assistant designer for the last year. Last week was actually my 1 year anniversary. So really like dead on 1 year. So as an assistant designer at Accessorize, I'm responsible for a variety of products. So this is something that I work under with my manager. So I'm the primary designer for socks. I also do a category which is called smalls. So within that is purses, card holders, bag charms currently as well, as that's quite a big trend. And then I also work with my manager under doing things like footwear and also hair accessories. So the two areas that I'm predominantly responsible for are socks and are smalls. So this is just a few examples of some of the products that are currently in store that I've designed. So you can kind of see from the screen that a lot of it is novelty at the moment. So I'll just take you through a sort of brief example of a day in the life as an assistant designer. This is something that it's quite hard to pin down because every day is slightly different. But when you're designing a range, especially with other designers within the company, we try and keep at least some element cohesive. So then when it sits in the store, it all looks like it belongs in the same range. So we have a print designer that creates loads of gorgeous, lovely prints for the whole season. And then we go through as different product categories, and we decide which prints we think will work for the products we work on. And then we'll also work alongside the buyers that work in that category, and we'll discuss what we think will fit best, what's sold well in the past, and how we can sort of come up with a new way to design something similar that will work for our customer. So you can see here on the flip-flops and the card holder, this is a palm print that was designed for one of our collections that are currently in stores. And then you can just see on the right-hand side some examples of how that was then interpreted into other products. So especially for socks and smalls, and also flip-flops and footwear, a lot of the time the whole print doesn't work for that product, but then we see if there's certain elements that we can take out. Especially with Accessorize, they're known for their attention to detail and their embellishments and the craft. So we've looked at sort of including embroidery where that works really well. My manager has a really strong background in embellishment, so she does a lot of the embellished products in store. So this is something that Accessorize are really proud of in their heritage as a company. So when you're designing a product like smalls or socks, there's sort of two things you have to keep in mind. So as a designer, we sit down as a team and we have a look at what's predicted as trend. So we normally use a website called WGSN, which costs a lot of money to subscribe to. But across the industry, from high street to high end, everyone uses WGSN as a point of reference and somewhere that everyone begins looking at their research. So for this, we'll start there. We'll look at everything that's predicted for the next year or so. So currently in the office, we're just finishing up on spring summer 2026. So as a team, we'll sit down, we'll look at everything that could possibly be used in accessories, and we'll print it all out and we'll look at it in front of us. And then we go through it again and we decide what we think fits the accessorized customer. So primarily the store is somewhere that probably your mums or your nans will probably know much better than you. It's somewhere that me personally, like my mum's always loved going to Accessorize. So when I got the job, she was literally like, oh my God, I can't wait to use your staff discount. So you have to keep in mind that even though you want to do something that is really trend and really cool, we have to think of how we can do that in an accessorized way to fit that lady. So we have that one side of things. And then on the other side, we have things that we know historically have sold really well. So if I take you back to the page before, especially on socks, novelty is something that's always sold really, really well. That's something that continues to sell well no matter the trends. So at the moment, we're really lucky that novelty as a whole is trending. But socks, there's certain things that we have to tick off every year. So we always have an animal in love. That's something that's always sold really well, and that's not a trend thing. So we kind of have a bit of a mixture of 50-50. And then sometimes it's really nice. So like bag charms, there's an area where the novelty and the trend overlap. So an area, like a part of novelty that's trending really well at the moment is food. So you can see the fries that we've got on socks and on a bag charm. So a day in the life, depending on the category we're working on, it really varies from day to day. So we'll sit down normally with a buyer and we'll discuss, this is what sold really well last year. We need to cover this off this year. How can we do that? So especially for accessorize, when it's really pretty, it does really well. So we'll sit down and we'll go, okay, this purse has done really well this year. Now we need to have a look at and see how we can do that this year. So that's a quick brief cover of what I normally do. I'm gonna go through a little example of trend research that we normally do. So when we're looking at trend, we do look at WGSN, but we do also go on Pinterest and social media. So this is something that the fashion industry is really trying to adapt to in recent years with the rise in popularity in social media. Whereas previously WGSN would have been what predicts a trend, and that would have been it. Now social media. Sorry. Now with the rise of social media, it can bring up trends that weren't previously predicted. So I'm trying to think of a good example of this. So when, for example, Barbie came out, and on social media that became a really massive thing, it created what we call a micro trend. So that's something that's not necessarily predicted, but as a company, we need to react really quickly to. So that's another area in my job that I do a lot is I keep an eye on what's trending on TikTok and on Instagram to make sure that as a company, we're covering everything where we can. So at the moment, I'm building a social media trend pack where we're seeing that there's a lot of polka dots at the moment. There's still a lot of bag charms, and then other areas of print and color. So this is really helpful as a company as well, so we can see if we've missed something, but also confirms when we've done something right. So that can be really reassuring as a company as well. So when we collate images to create a collection, we do normally save it all into Pinterest. So as a design team, it's somewhere that we can easily see and locate, see what everyone else is feeling for, sort of bounce ideas off of each other. And it's a really easy way to see a collection of images in one place, rather than having to print everything out and stick it down, especially where we want to reduce our paper use. So as a quick little, maybe 15-minute mini task, I was just going to see if everyone could go on Pinterest and save down things that they find really inspirational. So I've got an example here of some images that I really love. So it doesn't have to be something you think particularly is a trend. Do what you think really speaks to you. So if we do that and save everything down, if you have time, we can sort of mock up a sort of similar, this is how we'd normally lay out a mood board. So we'd have our mood page, and then we'd pick out color from that we think will work really well for that collection. So usually for us, we use a company called Pantone. So this is something in the industry that is used across companies. So when we send our designs out to suppliers, we'll send them out the Pantones as well, and then they'll have a Pantone book their end, and they'll be able to make sure that the color that we've selected is also matched to what they have got in their sort of office. So that's really good for referencing rather than just sending over like a digital image, because everyone's screens are slightly different, so a color could read slightly different. But for the purposes of this, I've just picked out colors from the mood page. So if I could get everyone to sort of start collating images on Pinterest, and then if you've got time and you want to make a mood page, go for it and you can put your colors in. But if you don't have time, just a screenshot of your Pinterest board would be great. And if we could share that into Padlet, that would be a really great place to start, because that will lead on to the next task that I'll get everyone to do. If that sounds good to everyone.
Yeah, so this might be a good opportunity to just kind of show Padlet,
Yeah.
and then I will share the link. By the way, really, like, this is probably the most interactive like chat session I've been on this, and there's already
Oh
so many
no.
questions, Ella. So I'm trying my hardest to, if I'm seeing lots of people's questions, and I'm making comments on the, and I'm noting them down, so we will wait
Okay.
towards the end. For everyone. No, but the chat's popping off, as the kids would say. Okay, so first of all, so I'm gonna pop the Pinterest link into the chat. So if we could just maybe not write anything into the chat just for a second, just so people can see the link that I put in a second. Uh, Okay, so I've popped the Padlet link into the chat now. Once you get onto the Padlet board, I'm going to share my screen and just show you. It's super, super easy to use. Um,
I was just going to say as well, I'll explain to everyone how to make a mood board once we've gone over onto Pinterest, and I'll explain what I can get everyone to do, because I've seen a few questions of similar, and also B that said she prefers to work on ID. That's completely fine. And also Sky. So I'm not on my own computer. Yeah,
so
that's fine. Sorry, Jason. Sorry.
no, you're good. No, thanks for answering the questions. Yeah, so you should be able to see this Padlet board, and you can either double click and then in comes like the different upload sections. So you can upload something you've saved. You can upload a link. So yeah, and you can write something about it. You might want to add like you could even type the colors that you want to use if you didn't, if you weren't able to kind of show the various different like hex colors. So yeah, that's what we're going to use to share work today. Yeah, I'll pass back over. But yeah, absolutely. If you don't want to use Pinterest, you can use something else. Is that right?
Yeah,
Any kind of researching tool, whatever kind of suits the individual is absolutely fine. We're going to give people until, should we give people until quarter two?
yeah, I think that sounds like a good amount of time.
Yeah. Okay, fab. Um, so whilst we're getting people to get on with their work, I'm already seeing some stuff come on already, which is fab. I would say try and piece together a bit of a mood board first, or some images first, and then upload it into one image, if you can, everyone. There was a few questions about some of the stuff, some of your work. I was wondering
Okay,
if we
cool.
could use this time, whilst people are kind of doing their mood boards.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so with your flip-flops and the purse that you showed, somebody asked what was the decisions of using different colored pinks?
So it depends basically on the department. So some departments historically have certain colors that really don't sell. So, for example, on smalls, pink always does really well because it's really girly. It's something that's really eye-catching when you go into store. Whereas on footwear, it's not always such a popular choice. I think it's probably quite a strong thing to be walking around wearing, whereas a small is something that you put into your bag. So that's normally certain buyers will have a list of colours they do want to do and they don't want to do. Sorry, Jason, I'm just seeing some questions about the workshops. So let me
Yeah,
just.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Do you want to? Yeah,
Um,
so a particular topic for people to research.
if you want to do, probably summer's best, just as the accessories that I'm going to give you include flip flops. But if you really hate summer trends and you would rather do winter, you can go for that because I've got purses and socks that you can also design onto in the later project that we're going to do. So it's really personal preference. So you can either pick a mood board, like design a mood board around something that you think is a trending theme, or if it's anything that you personally like, you can do that as well. It's completely up to you. Customize it completely to yourself. So if it's something that you can craft a mood board around something that you personally would like to see in a store and buy, it doesn't have to be something that you think is more catered towards like the general public. Just for the sake of this task, I want it to be something that you feel drawn to and you feel passionate about. And then I'll talk through how usually we would do like a trend for the wider customer. Is that okay for everyone? Once you have Pinterest, so if everyone saves down onto Pinterest, you can either just take a screenshot of your screen, like the example I have on my screen, just of the Pinterest page. If you have, if you get to a certain point in the task and you feel like you're done with that, then feel free to mock it up into a page like I have on my screen now and add in color if you want to do that. But if you don't get enough time and you want to carry on saving images down, that's completely fine as well. It's just so there's like a little additional task on the end of the mini task if you do feel like you've got enough out of it that you can. Is there anyone that still needs me to explain how to create the Pinterest board, or have people worked that out? Because I know I saw a few people ask a little bit earlier in the chat. I'll give a second if anyone wants to just comment if they do still need me to like guide them through that. I think we're okay. Okay. So if you, I'll get it up on my look on my phone. So if you open Pinterest on your screen, Let me see if I can. And then you'll see at the bottom, so there's a little plus. So this might be different depending on what screen or device you're using. So it will either be at the bottom or it'll be up in the corner. And then when you click on that, there's the option to start a board. And then when you create the board, you can then search on Pinterest for images. And then there'll be a little pin button and you can save it into that board. Let me know if that's clear, or if not, I can see if I can share my screen and show you. Good? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Jason, carry on.
No, it's good. Thank you for that. Got some good things uploading onto the Pinterest board. Yeah, so everyone, you've got about 9 minutes, so please don't rush. We're gonna have this task until 3:45. Eva's just popped in a kind of a good little quick how-to guide for Pinterest boards for anyone. So we're really looking for on your Pinterest boards, we're really looking for inspirational, like in like stuff that's going to inspire color, style. It doesn't have to be garments, does it, Ella? It could
No,
be
it can be anything.
like an image, like any type of image. Like we've got the pomegranate there, we've got the chili, we've got the nails. So yeah, it can be it's a playful bison. Got some lovely stuff on there already. Kind of like some of the stuff that I was talking about.
I'm just looking, so to save down images, so you can either, if you've got images outside of Pinterest you want to save, go to that plus again, you can put the link in and it will save the image. Or if it's a image that is on Pinterest, there should be a save feature in the corner of that image and you can click that and save it down into your board. If you want to do dark aesthetic gothic fashion, absolutely go for it. Do whatever you feel interests you. It doesn't have to be specific to anyone but you. Yeah, no worries, Mary Jane. If you want to open up Pinterest, and if we could get you to save down any images that interest you or you feel passionate about, and we're just going to get everyone to make a mood board that feels specific to them, and then we'll move on to a task from that. Cool. Oh yeah, I've seen some really great images already on Pinterest.
There's been a few questions about the summer school certificate. So as we've got a little bit of time, I will repeat this at the end. So in order to get your summer school certificates, you need to have registered at at least 3 out of the 6. Obviously, we'd love for you to come to all of them. But yeah, 3 out of the 6 sessions. That could also be, though, that you have registered, but you then watch not live. So maybe, some people might have work, some people might have other things that they need to do when we're live online. But that's okay because you can watch the recording on YouTube. You then also need to send us your outcomes for those 3 sessions. So if or those at least 3 sessions. So at the end we'll pop in the useful contacts, and I share it on the screen, but the email address that we'd want you to send your outcomes to. So you don't have to, as there's a couple of people saying, do we have to complete the worksheet? You're basically completing the worksheet now. The worksheet just goes through all the different tasks that we're doing in today's session. That worksheet also helps people who are not on the live session to do it later. But yeah, you don't have to also complete. So that's just register for at least 3 out of the 6 summer schools, and then send us those outcomes for at least 3. sessions, and then you'll get a certificate and a little bit more information. We're running a competition as well to win a £75 voucher. That will be, and I will explain everything at the end of the session. So we've got about 5 minutes. So we're just going to give you some time to finish off. You've still got 5 minutes, so please don't feel like you need to rush. There's some fantastic stuff already. I'm going to pass back over to Ella.
Yeah, cool. I'm loving some of the images in here. The peaches, peach board that someone saved down. That's something that definitely we're looking into at Accessorize. Fruit are doing really well at the moment. They're really popular, especially on hair products. So we do a lot of novelty hair accessories. So that's something that's a really big area for us at the moment. If you go into an Accessorize store, you'll see a lot of hair novelty clips, a lot of fruit, and a lot of more like food and other areas of novelty going into winter as well. And that's something that we're going to carry on into spring, summer as well. But peach is definitely something. I'm loving some of these boards. Zoe, your board's really nice. You've got a really nice like clear color palette coming through there, like some really nice neutrals with that pop of pink. Oh, there's some really cool boards in here. Playful bias in your work, your page kind of giving urban outfits as vibe, which is really cool. Was there any other questions, Jason, that
Yeah, there was one about micro trends.
okay, yeah.
So obviously you're working a year in advance, right? So
Mhm.
you're already working on next summer, spring, summer's range.
Yeah.
Is it all predicting what that, because obviously trends can come and go so quickly. How do
Yeah,
you
so it's a really difficult one now with the rise in social media, especially like with TikTok in the last like 5 or so years. It's something that previously you would just go to WGSN, that would be where you'd look at for trend. And it would also, you'd look to catwalks. So high-end designers, they'll do 2 catwalks a year. And we normally would look at that for confirmation on like colors that will trend. So if anyone's watched Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep has a bit of a dialogue where she talks about the process of a certain color blue that one of the characters is wearing and how that's come from a certain catwalk show. So that's something that really affects the fashion industry. If there's a lot of a certain color on the catwalks, it trickles down to high street. But with the rise in social media, it's kind of changed the dynamic of how, especially high street works now. So whereas before high end was the one that was always telling you this is what's going to be a trend, this is what you need to be doing, with the rise of social media and, for example, influencers, something that hasn't been predicted could suddenly go viral overnight. So it's the same as how like certain TikTok sounds go viral. It's not really predicted. So for our company, Accessorize, they'll have a certain part of the budget dedicated to doing fast reactions to that. So we'll plan ahead with the trend that WGSN has predicted. We'll know that that's probably going to be accurate. We'll have that confirmed by the catwalk shows, especially with like color or certain details like studding or polka dots and things like that. And then if, for example, the hair clips and like the flower and fruit and all of that sort of has come a bit more out of nowhere, we'll have a certain amount of budget to react to that as quickly as we can. But by that point, we'll have most of the range designed, and that will just be something that layers on top of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a really interesting question about how do you address the problems of microtrends causing massive amounts of waste and consumerism?
So within Accessorize, it's something we have to really think about. So we'll get sent all of these different trends and we'll have a look at them all. And then we have to sit down and say, as a company, okay, which out of these do we actually think fits a customer? Because if we covered every single trend, it's just an insane amount of product and it is a massive amount of waste. So we'll pick things that we think will appeal to the customer as much as we can. Unfortunately, in areas like high street fashion, to make a profit, the level of turnover on trend is a lot higher. That's something that from within our company we constantly have conversations about, and how we can combat that, how we can reduce our waste and make products that we think are going to appeal for a long period of time. For Accessorize, luckily we don't have a lot of product that goes to waste, as we only do minimal amount of clothing, which is like the product area that would normally have the most waste. Like if you go into Zara, like half of it's in sale at the moment, and things are put down to like £4, and it will be like a £30 dress. In Accessorize, it's not as common because the products are accessories. So a lot of the time, the merchandisers that we work with are really good at planning what they think are going to be more popular and maybe more practical. So the items that are more practical, we buy a large quantity of. That's what normally sells out. And then the products that we think are more trend-based, we buy a really small amount of, and that will be the product. It will then sell out as well. But we've bought that on a much smaller scale than the items that are much more practical. So like, say, for example, like a black claw clip, that will be something we'll always sell. So they'll buy a larger amount of that, and that will just be in the store all year round, compared to like trend pieces. So areas like micro trends, that is like causing a massive amount of waste, and it's really building like consumerism has become really massive. So it is something like, yeah, as a brand, we have to sit down and we go, okay, we are seeing this everywhere, but does it fit right for us? Because otherwise we are just adding to that waste. But yeah, it is something that has become a real issue in the fashion industry. It's something I'm really aware of.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for asking that.
That's okay.
Cool. Should we move on? Yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah.
We will move on. Thanks for the questions as well. It's nice to have like an ad hoc question session. Make sure we have lots of time for those. So really good questions. Well done, everyone.
I'm just having a look at all the mood boards, and there's some really lovely stuff that everyone's put down in here. So what I'm going to have everyone do next as our main task is, you've all saved down mood boards that feel relevant to you and something that you really enjoy. So in a moment, I'll share a link to a website called Canva. So usually in the fashion industry, when we design, we use Photoshop and Illustrator, but I understand that that probably isn't accessible to everyone in this workshop. So the next thing that I found that we probably be the best thing to use is Canva. So usually within, as I said before, within design, we'll get given certain prints, and then we'll take elements of that we think will work, and put that onto our product. So the actual whole print doesn't always necessarily work. So we'll take out elements. So, I mean, excuse some of my drawing, I'm not a print designer, but I've done a few examples of some artwork that has been inspired by the mood board that I've put together. So what I'll do is I'll send over the Canva link, and then if everyone could duplicate that file so they've got their own version, and then you can either use the artwork that I've provided here and put that onto one of the products, or if you have any artwork that you can search for on Canva that you feel like is more relevant to you. So for example, like I can see Iris's mood board has a lot of sort of like hyper feminine themes to it. So if you wanted to look for like butterflies or certain types of flowers, you can search that into Canva, and sometimes images come up that you can use. Or if you find an image you like and you want to just crop it and pop it onto the product, that's completely fine. But for the products that I've given to you, so we've got a purse in the top left. This can also be used as a pouch. So if you're thinking in your mind of like a makeup pouch or a pencil case, you can use it as that shape for that as well. And then we've got two different types of socks. So the first is a varsity sock. So that's a trending sock that we've found is really popular at the moment. So socks is a really exciting category to work on at the moment because it's actually got some elements of trend going on, which isn't always the case. So varsity and sport style socks are really popular. And then also ribbed socks. So I've just given you two plain styles there that you can add elements onto. So either from the artwork that I've drawn or your own artwork that you find, and then also flip flops. So on the screen, you can see that I've selected one of the shapes, and then at the top you can see color. So I've worked out that if you click on this, you can change the color to be within your color palette. It doesn't work for every single color, so just play around with it and see what you can find that you think works. but then everyone's able to sort of customize it as much as they want to their own mood board. So if you can either use, as I said, like the artwork that I've used, which you can also recolor when you select it, or you can pick out your own artwork. So if I just put the link into the chat. So if everyone goes on to this, and then you can select the file and duplicate it, because if everyone's on the same document, I think it might crash. Hopefully it won't crash. If you're not able to duplicate it, just copy and paste the 2 slides in the document, and then you can work on your pages yourself. But if anyone's not sure about what to do, you can also, you can make your own accessories if there's ones in particular you want to do, or if you want to do other areas of like products, so like jumpers or any form of clothing, you can also use that. It's just so we've got a template people can all work off if they don't want to do that. If anyone's got any technical questions, let me know.
I'm just going to jump in. So people need to click File. So people either can just duplicate it and we can work on the same thing,
Yeah.
or you can click File Download. So just make sure you either, because I can see loads of people kind of making their own duplicating slide, which is fantastic, and then just work on that one. That's brilliant. Obviously, just try and make sure you're not duplicating the original. Sorry, not working on the original. Just so people have the opportunity. I'll
make sure I'll pop a.
Ooh, yeah, fab. You can also, file download quite easily, or just right click and then duplicate page.
If you're doing it in the Canva document, if you want to put your name at the top as well, so no one else uses your page, that would be good as well. But yeah. I can see some people have already got started. And if there's any products that anyone designs and they feel like they've finished, if you want to put them into the Padlet so I can have a look at them, that would be good as well, because then I can all see them all in one place. So if you want to download, you do need to sign up or log in. So Canva is free, so you won't be charged for anything unless you sign up for the Pro. So if you want to download it, you'll have to set up an account. So to duplicate on Canva, you can either duplicate the page, so go to the 3 dots on top of the page and click duplicate, or you can duplicate the whole file if you go onto projects and duplicate the document, and then you can do it on there as well. So yeah, you can work on a different document if that works better for you. So AA, if you so what we're doing now is if you design some accessories based off of the mood board that you've set up, so the mood board that inspires you the most. So I've got some templates of accessories that I design on normally. So these are the templates I normally start from. So you can either design onto them, or if there's a certain product you want to do and you find an image of that and you want to paste your own photos onto that, you can do that as well. I've also included some artwork that you can use to design with if you want to use that, and you can change the colors on any of them if you want to as well. But if none of them suit your style or suit what you want to design into, you can find your own images too. Has anyone else got a question about the workshop? And yeah, if anyone wants to, you can do as many accessories as you want, or you can do just one if you want to. It's completely up to you. Hi Sky, what about Canva are you particularly confused about? And then I'll see if I can help. So to name your page, if you just click the text button on the screen, just pop your name in the corner just so you can say that that page is yours. So if you select on the accessory that you want to design with Sky, you can click on the color and then you can select the color that you want. So some of them come out a bit weird, so you might have to play around with which colors are available. And then if you want to add any of the artwork that I've provided, you can copy that from the first page and put it onto the accessory that you want to design with. And you can also change the colors of that. Or if you don't want to use the artwork that I've provided, you can find other images for inspiration and paste onto that. You can also search in Canva for images like hearts or other artwork if you want to do that as well. So completely up to you, whatever you feel like designing, go for it. Hi, Mary Jane. If you open Canva through the link, you can either download the document and do it on your own account, or you can copy and paste the page and then do the work in the same document as everyone else. So it's completely up to you. Yeah, if you want to draw on paper, you can completely do that. Go for it and then just take a picture and pop it into Padlet. Whatever's best for everyone, just do what you feel like doing. The purse, socks, and used it before, but unable to paste onto the object now. So normally copy and paste does usually just work to put something onto the object. If that's not working, if it's an image that you've saved down, you have to upload the image into Canva and then put it in. So that'll be on the left-hand side. There should be I think it's under camera roll, and then select the image that you want to put in, and then you can pop it in. Yeah, let me put another version of the document in for everyone. Just find another version of it for everyone that's having a bit of difficulty, and then they can download that themselves. So if I send, this is another version of the document. So if I send this link in for everyone that has had trouble accessing the original document, if you download it, that might be the easiest way for you to use it rather than duplicating within the document. Jason, how long do you think roughly we have for the task, just so I can let Isabel know?
Yeah, I think maybe a similar time. Maybe we'll do until 10 past, quarter past.
Yeah, cool.
And then we've got some time to share some people's work and maybe some more Q&A time.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna share my screen and just do a quick sorry, basically Ella's laptop has stopped working. So Ella's working on her iPad. So it's probably easier for me to kind of share my screen and kind of show the
Okay.
different things. Just telling everyone, yeah, Ella's laptop decided to not work on her just before. I'm just on, I think I'm on somebody's, but I'm just gonna quickly. So when you're on Canva, it's you can click to let's go to the original. On somebody's, yeah, okay, so you can add elements. So I've already like, say for example flowers, so you just click elements here, flowers, and then you might have, some of them are like some with a crown are the pro versions. You just need to find ones that aren't the pro version. You just click it and it appears, and then you can kind of change the size. You can rotate them. to kind of fit what you want. So it's really easy to kind of add lots of images, um, as well as changing the color that you might want to kind of, you might want to play around with the different colors. Um, and that's, sorry, the edit button. And you can change the different colors, different tones. Um, you can change the effects. So yeah, just have a real play with things. Please don't like stress about making this perfect. That for some of you, this is the first time you're using this. So yeah, just have the opportunity to have a little play. We are only on for an hour and a half, but that doesn't mean you can't then spend some time later on today or tomorrow, really exploring and yeah, playing around with with the different tasks. You can also copy and paste what Ella's just sharing now. Um, from that, so you just need to do how you normally do. So right click, copy, and then go into your thing and paste. Just yeah, get really creative. Have an opportunity to just play around. Um, and we'll give you some time. Yeah, we got to about 4 past.
Cool.
Again, once you have done, when you think you've finished, you can screenshot. I did put in, so for anyone that's on a Microsoft laptop or a computer, you just need to click the Shift, the Windows button, the S, and then you'll be able to screenshot certain sections of your page. Um, and then if you could pop it onto the Padlet board, that'd be fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, so some of the artwork that I've got on my screen as well. So these are some motifs that are really popular at the moment, product wise. So if you go to like high streets at the moment, you'll see a lot of lobsters on things. Fish are really popular, sardines, different like holiday food types. So like pasta. You also see a lot of like cocktails, things like that. And like I said before, like fruit and loads of like tropical fruit. So like the peaches board that was shared. Fits within that theme really nicely. And just whatever area of like novelty food can fit in has just been really popular. And then also like olives really popular. Sort of sun motifs, starfish, some of your like typical summer holiday shapes as well. I can see some people have already started sharing stuff. Lara, the purse is really nice with the L on. Initials is something we sell really well at Accessorize. Certain products with where someone feels like they're getting something that's a little bit more customized to them sell really well. So especially at Christmas, that's something that does really well for like pouches, purses, passport holders, things like that, as they're like really giftable. So that's a really nice product to design into. I'll start popping some replies into Padlet as well for people.
Ella, do you find that there are certain patterns that are timeless? So it doesn't matter kind of about these micro trends, like for example, cherries. I feel like cherries are like it's like a go-to that always sells really well, or is that an
Yeah,
assumption?
at the moment, cherries have been doing really well. So we had like a cherry print in at the beginning of summer, and it's sold out on everything. It's at the moment you can basically put a cherry on anything and it sells really well. So this is something that at the time, again, like we have to have a certain amount of budget to react to things. So when it sold really well, our director was then saying, well, if it's selling really well now, is it going to sell really well next year? So we've had to last minute do some purses and card holders for next year as well. So that's sort of like, yeah, we'll have a certain amount of budget to sort of when there's products that also come into stores and do really well, and it wasn't necessarily expected for them to do that well, we have money to then react to that and either get more of that product in or design something else that's similar that can come in as soon as possible. But cherries is a really good example of that. It's sold brilliantly, like across the business. And we've got two different cherry bag charms in at the moment, and they're both basically competing each other each week for bestseller. So yeah, it's definitely a very popular one. Another like print. So prints are trickier. They kind of go through phases of sometimes there'll be loads of prints that are in, and then other times there's like no prints that are really trending at the time. But stripes normally do really well. So we'll do a certain type of like striped purse every year. And then that stripe print will change depending on like our color palettes, like the colors that are trending or how it fits within the theme. But that's probably the one print. Some people argue it's not really a print because it is just stripes, but that is probably the one consistent print that is used all the time. But yeah, other than that, it can kind of come and go. Like animal print sometimes is in, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Yeah, I was wondering if there was like timeless prints, but yeah, I guess stripes, like I said, polka dots are pretty popular as well. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's
Like I've
amazing.
seen like Maya's got put an initial purse or pouch, I'm not sure which she thinks like she's designed it as, but gingham's really popular at the moment as well. So that's another sort of style of print that has been doing really well. And that kind of again comes in and out. And like Madeline's done like a tile print. That's one that sort of tends to sell well on flip-flops all the time, but not so much on other products. So it also depends on like the product categories. So some product categories they have certain like areas where they have to, like I said sort of before, the buyers will say like we need to cover this off every year. So like a tile print on a flip flop is normally quite a standard thing that we do. The same with like smalls, we normally have at least one form of like floral print, something that's really pretty that we have to cover off every year as well. But it depends like yeah, department to department. It does change.
Cool. So give everyone about 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
If you have already uploaded your designs onto our Padlet board, first of all, thank you for doing that. Well done for going so quickly as well. You are more than welcome to do some more designs. We've had some questions about which templates to pick. That's entirely up to you. We've got some people that have just chosen socks or just chosen purses. We've got some flip-flops there. We've got some people doing all. Is it Natasha? I like the fact you've done your own like kind of drawing designs, which is really cool. So yeah, it's entirely up to you. You can pick and choose, like Evie said. They're just provided as examples for you. If you don't want to redesign, the Padlet board's open. Be great to see like some love hearts going on. And you can add comments. Like Ella's added some comments already. There might be ones that you really like and you want to kind of give a shout out to that person. We can kind of spread the love a little bit. You might have some questions about people's designs. So yeah, we've got a little bit of time for you to also kind of, if you scroll down, that's where you'll start seeing the new Canva uploads.
Also, if like people want to put when they post, like say you've done like a sock, if you think like an element of it would be embroidered, or if something on a purse would be embroidered and other elements would be printed, that would be really great to know as well if you like put that in your comments on your Padlet post. So like there's little details as well that sometimes especially for like socks. Like there's certain things that sometimes we do and we think, oh, that would be really great embroidered, but if it's printed, it doesn't work so well. So that's other things you have to sort of consider when you're designing as well. Like what sort of detail do you want it to have as well? Seeing as well, Rat Boy Dylan, love the name. The Libra socks, that's something that we do sometimes for like gifting accessorize as well. So we do certain products that are easy to sort of buy for people for gifts. So like you've done the Libra socks because you're a Libra. So we'll do occasionally like we'll do like jewelry that's star sign jewelry, or we'll do like pouches at Christmas and things like that. So if someone's going in to buy something for themselves or buy something as a gift, it feels more personal and sort of almost customized to them as well. Love the paisley print purse that I think someone's, is it M's put on? That's a really lovely print, wherever you found that from or if you've designed that yourself. Some really nice work in here. I love that, Emily. You said you'd embroider the polka dot pattern and applique the pomegranate. That would be really lovely. Attention to detail. That's something else that we always think really carefully about at Accessorize, where the heritage of the brand is very much within like craft and crafted items. So adding things like applique and embroidery is like a really nice way to do that, as well as like embellishment and things like that. Love all the blue, Hannah. That's a really cute purse that you've done as well. Really love the pomegranate sock that Wise Beetles uploaded. I'm really loving everyone's names as well. So I'm just looking at Catherine's message. So there's certain items, it depends on what it is. So some things you can add your own flair to, and there's other things that have to be more trend specific. So for example, for my manager with a lot of her embellished products, she's able to add her own flair to things and certain details that are very much her sort of creative taste. But then there's certain other products that maybe you can't do that so much with. So for example, like footwear, that very much has to be kept within the trend or kept within what sells, as it's a bit of a smaller product. But definitely with things like socks, especially where a lot of the like elements of socks is novelty, you can have so much more fun with it. You don't have to stick specifically to a trend all the time. That's something I really enjoy, especially with bag charms and with socks, where it has such a key novelty element. You can kind of come up with any motif that you think will be fun and put that in. So when I first started, one of the first things I designed was a prawn bag charm. So there's things like that it's like it's a bit of a trend, but it's also really silly and really novelty, and that's a really thing to like really fun thing to design into. So yeah, it depends on the product type. Because yeah, like if it's got more novelty, you can kind of have a bit more fun with it. And then there's other areas where yeah, you have to kind of keep to the trend and keep to what sells. Is there a way of adjusting?
Well, so we'll just give everyone maybe 30 seconds more just to upload
Yeah.
to their work. I will say this again at the end, but this Padlet board will stay open. So even after we finished today's session, you will still be able to have access to the Padlet board. So if you're not finished yet, please don't worry, please don't stress. We'll give you, you can have some time afterwards and then upload it later. So yeah, you can work to your own speed. And there's some more questions coming through. What we'll do is we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A soon. So Ella, you're more than welcome to carry on if you want to.
Okay, cool. Let's see. So yeah, Sophia, with do you have to avoid certain patterns or symbols in your work because of political situations or social controversies? So with certain products, there's certain motifs and symbols that we can't use just because we have stores in other locations abroad. So across from like Europe and Saudi Arabia, we can't have, for example, crosses. As it's a very much like it's a religious symbol. So things like that we have to kind of stay away from, even if it is something that potentially is trending, because it's not something that's suitable to send to like Saudi Arabia, for example. In terms of like political situations, that wouldn't necessarily impact design as much, just because there's not normally much overlap with things that would go onto a product. When I worked at DCK, we weren't allowed to use the evil eye, for example. That was something that some brands sort of say they're not allowed to use, as it is can kind of be linked to religion as well. So if it's like a religious symbol, we're not really allowed to use it just because of the sort of variety of areas where we sell our products. But other than that, we have pretty much like free reign. There's not really that much that we're not allowed to do. Yeah, I haven't come across anything so far in my career that's like a political symbol or something like that that would fit onto a like trend item anyway. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But yeah. Let's see if there's any other questions. How do you avoid copyright infringement? So there's certain logos and images that are like copyright. So we'll have a legal team in the company that checks through all the products that we design, and they'll highlight anything that they think would be a copyright infringement. Normally, from like a design point of view, we normally have quite a good idea of if something would be copyrighted anyway, so we wouldn't actually like design that in the first place. So we know if something, yeah, most of the time, like for example, smiley, like the smiley face, not a lot of people necessarily know that, but it's a copyrighted image, and also the phrase smiley face. So that's something as a brand we like stay away from. We can't really put like smiley faces on things. There's other like sort of certain motifs that are associated with brands, so we have to be aware of that as well. But yeah, if there's anything that as a design team that potentially we miss, normally it's caught by someone else on our like floor. So a buyer or a merchandiser will say like, oh, I think this might be copyright. If no one does pick up on that, we have a legal team that checks everything as well. So yeah, I'm just going to read out Rachel's question. So in regards to social media trends that we were talking about earlier, how much would you say social media is having a bigger impact on the fashion industry than fashion houses used to? I'd say it's having a much bigger impact than anyone anticipated that it would. So historically, like as I said earlier, fashion houses and WGSN are solely what would project trend and what would influence the high street. Now that isn't the case. there's a lot more elements that come into what becomes a trend. So social media, I would say now almost has like a 50-50 that's shared with like half social media, half fashion houses, and WGSN both have impacts on what's a trend. So that's something like in my role, I have to keep an eye on if there's anything that rises on social media that we haven't covered. A lot of the time, things rise on social media as a trend, but actually it's been predicted by WGSN as well. So that's quite good to see as well, because then you get it confirmed from both sides. Some really lovely work being sent through. Yeah, if anyone's like struggling to come up with if they feel like they're a bit creatively blocked at the moment, like don't worry about it. Come back to it when you feel a bit more inspired after like the workshop, and feel free to carry on playing with it. The Canva document will still be there if anyone wants to carry on.
Yes, we've got, I would say, maybe 5 minutes to if anyone had any questions. I'm gonna kind of so we're gonna go to like the proper Q&A part of today's session, although there's been some fantastic questions already, and it's kind of it's led quite naturally to have all these questions. So it's nice to kind of have this conversation going throughout the session, whilst people are still working. And please carry on with your designs, and just kind of listen to us in the background. If you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. We won't have time to answer all of them, so please don't feel offended if we don't have time for your question. I'm going to start off the Q&A session with one particular question, and I think this is probably a really important question for maybe budding fashion designers, people that want to work in fashion. So, what advice, and this might be like the £1 million question, but what advice would you give to somebody wanting to get into the industry?
It's one of those things where I'd say you have to be really perseverant, like persevere with it. When I first graduated, I applied probably to jobs every single day for probably like the first like 3 months or so. You have to just keep persevering. Make sure that anytime you're doing any like work that you think really shows your skill and your talent, make sure that's in your portfolio. So that's something when you apply to jobs, you send through like a portfolio that has all of sort of like your talent and ability shown. So normally like in an industry portfolio, you would have maybe like a mood board like we've done today, and then you would show product inspired by that mood board again like we've done today, and that would be something that shows sort of your taste level, and also like what you see as like up and coming trends. So that's something that employers look for a lot as well. So like if you're able to sort of spot things that you think are coming through, they find that like really good that you can sort of be aware of that as you go. So that would probably be like my main like piece of advice. Yeah, just like keep being informed with like what's trending and what's not. That's a really good place to start, especially like in interview processes as well. It just shows that you've got a really good like base knowledge.
Yeah, be really locked in to the current change, and that's probably the number one piece of advice for any industry. Yeah, absolutely. There's a question from India. Can you get into the industry without a degree? If so, how? Obviously, Ella did get into the industry through doing a degree at Norwich University of the Arts. But I'm going to give a chance for Ella to kind of maybe she knows somebody that kind of went through that route. And also, are the jobs freelance?
So for a design role, usually employers look for you to have at least a bachelor's degree. But for other areas in the fashion industry, so say you wanted to go into buying, that's not something you necessarily have to have a degree in. So I work with girls that have no degree in buying, and they work in buying, or they'll have like maybe like a course in it, and it's not necessarily a degree. But for something like design, normally you do have to have like if you want to work in the industry, like it's normally a requirement. When you go into freelance, that's normally something that's only a design role, so you don't really get freelance buyers or merchandisers. It's normally just design, and again you normally need some level of experience to go into freelance. It's quite uncommon to go straight into that, though it is done. But normally they look for you to have at least like a base knowledge of the industry that you're working in and some experience. So there's potential maybe for you to go into that without a degree, but I think it's probably more unlikely.
Oh yeah, thank you for that. Really nice answer. And if people are thinking about different fashion jobs and different fashion routes, so it's not just design. Obviously, there's hundreds and hundreds of different jobs in the fashion industry. Norwich University of the Arts does have a non has two non-designing courses. So we have fashion comms and promotion and fashion marketing and business. And I think it's personal choice about going to university, but I think it's the knowledge, understanding opportunities and also the networking opportunities you get at university as well. Like Ella said, in her third year, she was able to go to London Graduate Fashion Week. That wouldn't have happened unless she'd come to university. So there's obviously pros and cons for decisions about what course, whether it's university, whether it's not university. But that's stuff that we can, if you are further on, obviously we've only got a couple of minutes left, but if you, I don't know who asked that question, but for anyone that is thinking about, do I go to university? Do I not go to university? Please do reach out to us, because we'll be, hopefully be able to kind of give you, um, the options and kind of open up that conversation. So we'll have time for maybe two more. I've just seen Mary Jane's. Can you do A-level textiles without doing a GCSE level? Um, yes, you can absolutely choose any A-level course. Obviously, depending on the college or sixth form you go to, you might need to read kind of entry requirements for that college course. Ella, I don't know what I can't remember if you said at the start what you did for your GCSEs and A-levels BTECs.
I did for A level, I did photography, textiles, and English lit. But at GCSE, I was lucky that my school did textiles GCSE, but not everyone that I studied with for A level, because I went to a different sit form for A level. Some of them came from art courses, or normally for like A level, say like A level textiles, they just want you to show that you have some form of creative ability. So you don't necessarily have to come from like a textiles GCSE to do that. You could come from like an art GCSE, or have another way of like demonstrating your creative skill. If I can put my mind back, it was quite a long time ago.
Yeah, I definitely went to university longer than you, which makes me feel a bit old. We've got time for just one more. I think this is a really nice question about process, about design process. Obviously we've kind of focused on accessories today, and that's obviously what Ella's currently that's the job and the job role she's in at the moment. But kind of looking back to some of the more garment making that you've done, what is the process like to do other designs such as dress design or outfits? Maybe for when you were getting ready for your third year fashion show, like, or what was your process in that? And I'm giving you multiple questions now. Would you change that process now that you're kind of a professional expert?
I think when I was doing my degree, I was very much still learning the best way for me personally to work. Like, even in the industry now, I work with different designers that work differently. It's kind of more about finding what works best for you to get to that outcome. When I was doing my degree, it was very much research based, which it always will be when you're designing. But the place that I got that research from was maybe slightly different. That was the really great thing about doing my degree, was I got to do something that was very personal to me and something I felt really passionate and interested about. So that's why, like I said, my project came from Greek mythology and my real interest in that. So I knew, like in my final year, at the point I was really into that, I was really researching into that. I felt really passionate about and kind of angry about the way that all these women have been portrayed in these stories, where I felt like they have been villainized when really they were the victims. And I think that's what really drove my work at the time. And then because I was doing a degree where I could be really, really playful with what I was doing, I felt like I could really get into that. So I did it in the form of like a police investigation, like I said. So my portfolio was all on a pin board. So I had all of my work pinned and I made it look like a police investigation with like the red yarn and all of that. So that was like my side with my research. And then to sort of go hand in hand with that, the way I was designing at the time, I was doing a lot of like, I would construct a dress, I would rip it apart, and then I'd reconstruct it differently to kind of sort of convey that sort of anger and that sort of the mood that I was trying to convey in my work. So when I was doing that, I would start that way and then I would convert it into a pattern and then I'd remake it. In the industry, it would work slightly differently. You would design it on like a flat lay. So you have like, for example, like a t-shirt sort of drawn out flat. And then you would put your print in how you want it to be, like the scale or whatever detail you would like. So in high street fashion, the way you would do that, and then it would be sent off, and the supplier would make the pattern for you. When you're higher end, you normally make the pattern in house, and then you construct the whole thing in house, and you have the product there. But it works a bit differently at different levels in the industry.
Cool.
But,
Thank you for that. It's a really nice question about process. For those of you that are in year 12, possibly year 13, who are really thinking about working on their portfolio submissions for university. For us, and I know a lot of other arts universities as well, process is really important. We want to kind of see that your creative thinking from those initial ideas all the way through to final outcomes. Fab. Well, we've kind of come to the end of today's session. Time does fly, but just before we finish up today, sorry, Ella, do you mind going to the last slide for me?
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's just my outfits at Fashion Week. Oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not.
let's show those. Show those. That's amazing. Fab stuff.
Let me do that again because I think it's
Um,
just frozen.
we would love to get your feedback. You will receive an email from us asking for feedback from today's session. I'm also going to upload a quick poll. There's 6 questions, and it should pop up onto your screen now. So please do, if you can, it'd be really, really helpful just to get some of a quick feedback of how you found today's session. Um, um, so at the end of this series, so after the 6 weeks, you'll receive a feedback form. Now, as an incentive to fill that feedback form, so that's not the poll that I've just put up, that's a separate email. You will be in a chance for winning a £75 voucher. The winner will be selected at random, and there are some terms and conditions on our summer school webpage. Next week's summer school is going to be an architecture. So any budding architecture students that would like to sign up, you can still sign up by going onto our website. I'm just going to pop the website link in the chat now. You just need to go to book your place if you haven't done so already. So please, come join us for next week. It'll be fantastic. It'll be another Norwich University Arts graduate. Join us, Kian, who graduated from our architecture course. All our workshops are designed to give you an insight into the different areas that your creativity could take you and to demonstrate the many different jobs that exist in the creative industries. I think it's super important that we're showcasing our graduates who are currently working in the industry that they went to university for. Doesn't, people don't, and Ella will be able to atone to this, that nobody came to her door and gave her the job. She had to work really, really hard. But
Mm.
if you really want it and you're working really hard, you will succeed. And Ella's a poster girl for that, as we've seen today. Um, so I talked a little bit about the certificate, and quite a few people in the chat are saying, well, where do I submit the work? How do I submit the work? So, in order to receive your certificate, you need to send us your outcomes from at least 3 workshops. You need to send your outcomes to this email address that I've just popped into the chat. So that's student.recruitment@norwichuni.ac.uk. These outcomes can be something that you've made as part of the workshop today. So the stuff that you've put into the Padlet board, or could be something you've made afterwards in response to the workshop as well. We also really want to see what you're making throughout the summer school series. So do tag us in any photos of your workshop outcomes on Instagram. Our Instagram handle, I'm just going to pop into the chat. Please do follow us as well. We'd love to increase our follow count. You might already be following the main Norwich University Arts Instagram account. This particular one is ours, so student recruitment Instagram account, where we share specific recruitment opportunities, different opportunities for you to get involved in online and in-person workshops. Yeah, so to close, I just want to give a massive thanks to my colleague Evie, who's been furiously writing in the chat and replying to all your amazing messages. A big thank you to Ella today. I know there's been lots of big thank yous in the chat. We really do appreciate you giving us your time this afternoon. And also thank you to Accessorize for giving us you for this afternoon. We really do really appreciate that. I hope everyone's had lots of fun. This recording will be live on YouTube soon. You'll get sent the link to that and the worksheet if you do want to kind of revisit the session and revisit the different tasks, then you're more than welcome to look at the worksheet as well. And that will be sent out very shortly too.